legs are getting weary, my back is getting tight. I'm sitting here in traffic on the Queensborough Bridge tonight, but I don't care 'cause
We are back and we are better than ever. Van is waving a light in the air to that beautiful King of Queens theme song. I'm Brian Vaughn. This is Boob Tube Boys, and I'm joined by two lovely fellows to discuss King of Queens, Season 6, Episode 7, Secret Garden. The first of these lovely fellows I alluded to is Spencer Hendricks.
Well, hello. I'm not going to wait for you to do any more introductions. I do have, and I get into this on the website that you guys should check out, boobtubeboys.com. I have a lot of qualifications, but we don't have time to talk about those right now.
Not now.
So
we have important stuff.
No, but there's so many qualifications we wouldn't be able to fit them in the episode. Anyway, I'm really excited about this one because I have so many notes about this episode, and I'm going to probably talk, and you guys can just sit and listen for this entire hour.
Can I just leave?
Yes. We don't need you. Actually, I don't need either one of you guys.
That booming voice you heard, that's Van Lee. He's the other person on this podcast, and he is thrilled to be here as America's #1 premier King of Queens superfan. Isn't that right, Van?
Something like that. No, I mentioned maybe in the Patreon episode. Either way, I had to redo some stuff with my studio, ended up falling off a thing, and my leg hurts. And I think this show has genuinely made my leg hurt more because of just how angry this show makes me.
Well, you know, your leg is hurting for two. Yourself and King of Queens, the sitcom.
Could be
Darn.
psychosomatic. You might imagine it.
Purely psychosomatic.
We need a
That
psychologist.
boy needs therapy. I'm sorry, that just really pushed that one weird song into my head. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but I feel like I should.
The Avalanche's something psychiatrist. Frontier psychiatry.
Oh, yeah, I do
That
now.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
That boy needs therapy. They
That's-
just sample a bunch of old movies.
That's not which is kind of the Avalanche's thing. I'm surprised that that's a reference that was mentioned in this King of Queens episode.
Can we just talk about the Avalanches instead of King
Yeah,
of Queens?
I am actually all for that.
Kind of fascinating. I like
Yeah.
this stuff. Anyway, go on.
Unfortunately, though, we can't. Yeah, it says here on this sheet
No,
of
we have to
paper
talk
I have.
about King of Queens.
We're contractually obligated to do so.
Yeah, we're bound to. As I said earlier, today we're going to be talking about Season 6, Episode 7, Secret Garden. This one aired in 2003, just after the show's most popular period, so it's kind of on the downward slope at this point.
People have figured out there's only the one joke here, which is fat guy, hot girl.
Yeah, that's the main joke. We also see some cast regulars in this episode we didn't see in the previous one we covered, including Deacon and Kelly. Deacon works with Doug at IPS, their package delivery job, and Kelly is his wife and Carrie's friend. They had been having marital troubles in the show prior to this episode.
I noticed that they addressed it, but of course it worked out because it always does.
Oh, yeah. We also meet Doug's cousin, Danny, who Van loves, as you can tell by that deep sigh.
I don't think he runs his business very ethically.
No, he really doesn't. Danny's played by actor and comedian Gary Valentine. Who,
You were playing fast and loose with comedian there.
Yeah, I really am. Fun fact about Gary Valentine, he is
You're
Kevin...
playing fast and loose with the word fun involving this fact.
He's actually... no, you're going to love this if you don't know it already. He is Kevin James's older brother.
Of course he is. That's
Oh,
the only
I didn't
way he
know
got
that.
a job.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
And like an actor I mentioned who played the coach in the last episode of King of Queens we covered, Gary Valentine primarily appears in Kevin James-related material like Here Comes the Boom, The Zookeeper, and he's also in a bunch of Adam Sandler-verse stuff like Jack and Jill, where Adam Sandler plays a boy and a girl.
I never watched that, and I'm proud that I never watched it.
It's got to be terrible.
It's like the movie that's won the most Razzies or whatever as far as being a bad film.
Ugh.
I can totally see that.
There were a bunch of those Adam Sandler / Kevin James movies that
Tons
came
of
out.
them. That
That's
that
true.
Gay
That little
Panic
era,
one.
that happened a lot.
So I think that's maybe they were introduced, and Adam Sandler's like, this guy's so fucking funny, this brother.
Yeah.
I have to put him in Jack
What
and
was?
Jill.
Wasn't there another person that you said really liked Kevin James that was actually a...
Mark Maron.
Oh, wow.
Podcaster Mark Maron
Yeah.
thinks he's the funniest person in the world.
That's right.
And it makes me go, well, I guess I can't listen to Mark Maron ever again.
I can't trust Mark Maron's opinion on shit at this point. For the record, Patton Oswalt has vouched for Kevin James in a different way.
How so?
In that he
As a
believes...
person.
Yeah, as a person, I think is one of the things. But the second one is... I read an interview with Patton Oswalt where he insisted Kevin James would be a comedic actor who could make that crossover to dramatic material very well.
Oh, I would be fascinated to see that. I can't even imagine it.
Yeah, and then I think in the same interview mentions that Kevin James very openly has no interest in that, though.
It doesn't seem like he does, or else he wouldn't have been in Mall Cop.
He's cashing those paychecks. However, you never know, because his friend Adam Sandler has done his very best work in dramatic
Oh, man,
roles.
I like several serious Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah,
I know, I can't.
he's
I just can't
so
do it.
good sometimes.
I get it. I just can't do it. I'm sorry.
I-
If I've listened to Adam Sandler my whole life, I'm Adam Sandler. Look at me talk out of my butthole.
Yeah, and his comedy is just flat out bad.
Yeah.
Well, what's happening with my butthole?
Yeah.
It's all butthole jokes.
And it's actually, it was never funny, but it's aged even worse than that. So
Well,
it's like
and I will say that, okay, some Adam Sandler movies can be funny. I still have fond memories of Waterboy and
When I was
Happy
10,
Gilmore, but
I
they're
thought,
bad. They're not compared to what they should be, or if I watch them now, I would not enjoy them to the degree I watched them back then. But there are funny jokes within them.
within the Happy Madison Productions company.
Not after, what's the one that we make fun of where he's the devil? Little Nicky?
Little
Oh,
Nicky.
God,
That's
which
like
I never
the
watched.
downfall.
Don't mess with the Zohan,
no, I
of
wouldn't go
course.
anywhere near that.
Yeah, he's done a lot of questionable stuff, that Adam Sandler, as has Kevin James, which we know. But that whole group of friends, they think Rob Schneider rules, so it kind of makes sense Gary
what's up with
Valentine even
that?
gets a pass.
I don't get it.
He's an awful human.
Awful.
Too. Rob Schneider.
Not
He's
even
terrible.
just in terms of his craft, but also his beliefs on things are reprehensible.
Hey guys, making copies. That's
Ugh.
it. That's the joke. I said it.
Was
They
that-
actually made fun of that in Family Guy, of all things,
Wow.
too. Which is, no, this is early Family Guy, mind you. But nonetheless, if they're going to take that on, that shows you that Rob Schneider must be a very easy target.
What are you guys talking about? He was in more than one Deuce Bigelow male gigolo movie. And
And the
also,
animal.
Yeah, he was the animal, the titular animal. Ugh. Ugh. But I digress.
Please do.
I also mentioned that Carrie's friend Holly does appear in this episode. She's played by Nicole Sullivan, who was a cast member of Mad TV, which I believe Van mentioned on our previous episode. And once again, we don't get any Jerry Stiller this episode. I somehow randomly picked 2 episodes that he doesn't appear in.
Shame on you.
I know, even though he is credited.
One of the few things I was looking forward to this show. Patton Oswalt and Jerry Stiller,
Yeah.
and here we are.
And here we are. We do get brief Patton Oswalt appearances. We've gone over the cast and crew for this episode and a few other general notes, so I see no reason not to discuss this, I'm just going to say it, not very good episode of television.
And again, no cold open. I mentioned this last
No,
episode.
they do away with that.
Which means that they were like, we have so much funny stuff to write in the show. We can't put time, effort, and energy into the cold open. Let's just get right to
We
how
don't
good
even
it
need to
is.
get him with a zinger. We get the opening credits right away instead, and I was kind of surprised that all these years later, the intro song and credit sequence are identical.
Yeah, they didn't bother.
They're not updated. We don't see the actors looking any older or different. Doug still rolls around on top of Carrie, which I have to imagine is actually what knocked the Scientology out of her.
Squeeze it right out.
We actually begin the show in the Heffernan backyard, where Doug, Carrie, Deacon, and Kelly are having a good old-fashioned couples grill out.
Double date. The
Yep.
good old double date in the backyard.
We get a little exposition. Carrie says how great it is Deacon and Kelly are back together from their marital separation.
Do you know why they separated, what the conflict was? Is it relevant?
I don't know, but I've seen episodes where they are separated and the focus is on Deacon getting Kelly back.
What a bunch of drama. Yeah.
Yeah.
Drama in our hilarious show here. Come on.
Exactly. Hey, they were trying stuff. I'll at least give
True.
them that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really worked or not. These couples are glad to be in each other's company again and all hanging out together. So that's kind of the feel of this episode. It's like the team's back together, the band's back together. We're going on tour, and the tour is in the Heffernan backyard.
Yep.
Problem is, the grill that they're grilling on sucks.
piece of shit.
Yeah. Doug has an old grill that keeps going out. He has to do this little trick where he lights a match and chucks it in. This comes up several times. And then runs away and waits for the flames to shoot up.
I'm assuming this is a propane grill because
I-
they're not dealing with charcoal because that would just light.
I guess so.
I
was
really
confused
wasn't
too.
sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know a whole lot about propane grills.
I don't think
because they
you-
taste bad.
Do you have to... Okay, this is going to sound really ignorant. Do you have to even light a propane?
Essentially, there's like a pilot light where, much like a hot water heater, where it's a little flame that's
Yeah,
always
you
on
turn
or
a
whatever,
button.
and then you turn it up, and it goes.
But where's
puts out more
where's the
than it
match
does.
get involved in that?
It doesn't.
It depends.
So I don't think
well,
it is
depends
a
on
propane. I don't think it's a propane.
It's a propane in the ass, am I right?
I don't think it's a propane. I'm not sure what the grill is.
I think it is propane because the pilot light has essentially went out. They have to relight that.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
This is a fake grill.
Well, not only does the grill suck, but Doug thinks they just shouldn't own it anymore. And he's proposing a new grill, the Charmaster 8000.
Which is a big problem we all have, which is it time to upgrade the grill?
I know. When you're a man out on your deck wearing your hat backwards with your khakis.
We're middle-class people. Should we get a better grill?
Yeah.
The neighbors, are they going to judge us if we don't upgrade?
Why does he always have his hat on backwards?
Is our
He
mower
looks
too
cool.
old? Yeah, if you looked like Kevin James with a backwards hat, you'd have one
wish
on
you
all
looked
the
like
time.
Kevin James.
Let me go get that Padres hat and put it on backwards. We'll see how cool I turn into.
You'll be amazing. You just don't know it yet. You'll start telling like really family-friendly jokes and hanging out with Adam Sandler in Hawaii.
Pointing out how fat I am.
Yeah.
At every
At
opportunity.
every single turn. Doug wants this new grill not only to replace the old one because it's fancy, it'll char a logo into your meat, because everybody wants that. Doug says, hey, this could put a Knicks or a Jets or an Islanders logo, or Carrie for you, maybe a Maybelline logo.
Oof. The first of many very sexist comments in this scene.
Everybody's very on gender roles.
Oh, God, this scene is hilarious at that. They had no idea what they were doing here. And I get it. Like, I understand this stuff does happen. People do get together with their husbands and wives and they grill and the women do one thing and the men do that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying the way they presented it here was hilarious.
The other thing that you didn't mention, Brian, was at one point, Deacon, I think it is, says, hey, you going to make that food? And Doug says, yeah, I've got burgers. I've got, I think, chicken.
Chicken, yeah.
And then he goes, and tofu. And it's just, this show is like, big guy don't like tofu.
Yeah.
Tofu
Also,
ain't meat.
who the fuck does want grilled tofu? Like, I mean,
I like
that's not what you go to a grill out for.
No, if I were going to barbecue grill, I would have a hot dog or hamburger or something. I'm not
Or
going to have
chicken.
tofu. However, tofu's really good.
I'm not slamming tofu. It's just that
I've seen you in your anti-tofu movements.
I have no need for tofu because I'm not that big on soy-based products. But we don't have to get into that. I'm just saying.
Black bean burgers.
I'm just saying that wasn't. I love black bean burgers,
You just despise tofu like a monster.
but that's not tofu. That's actual. It's like actual food. Tofu.
You guys are missing the point.
Yeah,
Tofu
we are. We're
is
a little
for
bit
women.
missing the point.
yeah, that's
Meat
true.
is
That's
for men.
true. That's right. Yeah, you make a great point.
That's what Kevin James is asserting here. Tofu sucks because my penis will fall off if I eat it.
Now, please tell me you're about to talk about how the men are grilling and talking about meat and
Yeah.
how tofu's bad, and the women are talking about their vaginas.
Well, they're talking about meat too, the meat betwixt their legs. Carrie and Kelly are having a separate conversation about gynecologists.
Do they do that? Did I miss something in the many women that I've been friends with? Do they just not talk about that because I'm a man? Or do they not really talk about gynecologists that much?
Well, I asked Katie because this show posits that every woman is constantly at the gynecologist
Or talking about it if they're not.
or talking about it and has just the worst experiences with gynecologists. She's like, exactly what I thought. It's not pleasant. It's something you just have to do. But
But do
no,
you just open?
it's-
Is that like your opening? Like if you're a woman, you meet a friend, you're gonna be like, hey, let's bond over gynecology.
right?
That's how they make this sound in
Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah, that's like your icebreaker. It's like, who's your gynecologist? It
Is it Judge Reinhold?
It is, and in this case, it definitely is. And that's the good news for Carrie. She finally, after a good word from Kelly and a year of waiting, got into the best gynecologist in town. It's a breeze going to this guy, Kelly says. It's just the easiest thing in the world. It feels like going out for lunch. It's so fast. And this is Dr. Roy Crawford.
Yay!
Yeah, he's very, very soothing. He's awesome. So that sets up our B plot, unless it's the A plot. Who knows with shows like this. And that's when they give up on the grill and Deacon and Doug go inside, or they're getting ready to go inside to nuke the meat. Or I'm sorry, Deacon and Kelly do, when Doug's cousin Danny kind of wanders in to find them barbecuing in the backyard.
Okay, before I get into Danny, if there's one thing I love more than anything else, it's microwave chicken.
Oh, yeah, that's already been on the grill for like an hour.
Disgusting. Don't ever microwave anything.
Just
people.
go ahead
It's just
and
bad.
Yeah, or like a burger that's cooked 40%, but then you microwave the rest.
That's
Hey,
how
it's
you-
got
yeah.
grill lines.
Yeah, the grilling is just to start it, and then the rest of it you just finish in the microwave. That's how grilling works.
Yeah, it's a primer.
Okay, what? Let's do this now.
No.
What the fuck is the deal with this guy, this cousin who makes Kevin James seem masculine and likable?
Okay, yeah, so Danny, who's Kevin James' older brother in real life, he shows up, and he looks like a gopher. He just does. He's wearing...
I refer to him as a chipmunk-faced gremlin man. And I think that covers it as well, yes.
He's wearing one of many just T-shirt jerseys that just say, like, 81.
And that's it. No other defining characteristics.
That's what they
of the
wear.
team.
That's what they wear in the Queens.
Yeah, backwards hats, jerseys, khaki shorts, sandals. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's a whole early 2000s thing is what this episode is, of dudes hanging out with other dudes. And Danny, the cousin's arrived and is clearly unwelcome. No one there likes him.
Good.
Or wants him there. And you get that
Well,
vibe.
Carrie doesn't dislike him. She just feels like she has to protect him because everyone else hates him.
Yeah, she gets to that point, but she doesn't
Like
want him
you
staying.
guys and one of your
No,
weird
she didn't
bowling
invite him.
alley friends.
She did not invite him, that's for sure.
No one wants him at this, and they make it clear, like, he jumps at the idea that this is only for couples. That's why he wasn't invited. And then he tells them about his new lawn care business and yard work business, and it's called the Garden of Whedon, which is pretty fucking awesome.
I thought that
I
was
liked
clever.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
That's the only good thing. Well, there's two good things to come out of this episode. That's one.
Yeah, Doug shits all over the idea.
Which
Danny
he's
says,
wrong to do.
yeah, he says, I used to do this in college. I'm getting back into it. Carrie is supportive, and she'll even pass out Danny's wrinkled up and folded in half pile of flyers that he hands her, and
Just
no one
shove these
would
in your
want.
purse.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. I got my extra papers here because he walks up and the
Yeah.
papers are like this.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got these flyers. Will you hand them out around town? And she goes, of course I'll hand your flyers out around town, and just wads them into this pile. There's nothing I love more than getting information off of a wadded up, disgusting, ripped and torn flyer.
I feel like this is another case of people making a TV show who never had to do real life stuff. Like, you wouldn't know, oh, I need to keep these flyers nice and presentable, or here's how I would do this real human thing. A common example of this that people give out is like watching an actor clean something in a TV show, or sweep, or mop, or something that they've clearly just never done. And this is one of those things like, here, will you hand these flyers out? And essentially Leah Remini like throws them on the ground, stomps on them, folds them in half, and they're already messed up when she gets them. It's just kind of a weird scene.
They need a continuity master on that show because they
Yeah.
would look at that and go, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, somehow King of Queens, no continuity director on the payroll. We cut at this point to the Community Medical Center, where Carrie has just wrapped up her first appointment with her new gynecologist.
Oh, God.
That's Dr. Roy Crawford, played by the one and only Judge Reinhold, who we know from just all sorts of stuff in the 80s.
Yeah, what all has he done? I know him from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah,
with
the Beverly
jerk-off
Hills
scene.
Cop series.
Okay. He's just an 80s chipper-faced actor.
Oh, he was in the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
At least it wasn't CLAWS.
Yeah. And then, of course, himself on the gag parts of Arrested Development.
Judge Reinhold.
As
I do remember
Judge
that.
Reinhold, yeah. He is playing this role as kind of a kindly gentleman with a little bit of an edge, because Carrie and Dr. Crawford are reminiscing about how breezy this all was. They're getting along great. When Dr. Crawford's office buzzer goes off, it is his secretary or assistant saying, look, your next appointment, they're running late. Dr. Crawford says, don't bother. Tell them to find another gynecologist. Whew. This lets us know,
It's a really good doctor.
yeah, Carrie needs to walk on thin ice, because this guy's in demand and he doesn't take shit from anybody.
Well, I mean, look, I get it. If you're a professional and you have to wait on customers who are constantly late, that gets frustrating.
Yeah.
He doesn't tolerate it. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
Judge Reinhold sure is a bad actor.
Yeah,
Right?
he wasn't very good, and I'm not that familiar with his actual
I
capability,
don't either.
but I wonder, is this him phoning it in?
It might be because he was just like big grin on his face. He never changed his attitude. He was just saying the lines. I don't know. I came away very unimpressed
He
with
was
Judge Reinhold.
probably better than Lou Ferrigno, who has several appearances on this show as Doug and Carrie's neighbor.
Really?
That's
Yes,
amazing.
as himself, as Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, so it's
That's
not
pretty.
a. Oh,
That's
okay.
pretty cool.
Yeah. There's
Little
one
meta.
episode where Patton Oswalt wants to go to a Comic-Con with him.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Rip him out of his little pants. make
I
him
do
all-
want to say I don't think it's understandable that he was that impatient with his patient. I think a doctor should kind of go above and beyond a little bit more than that. That's someone who should be getting more negative reviews online.
If I
Yeah,
go
his
to a
Yelp
doctor,
page sucks.
If I go to a doctor and my scheduled appointment is, say, 12:30. I get there at 12:15. I do everything I'm supposed to do, and the doctor is a half hour late because the person before me was late. I'm going to be pissed.
Well, sure.
So I don't buy that at all. I think if it happens once, fine. It's an accident, it happens. But clearly in this case, it's been a series of this happening. So I buy it. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, if that happened to you, you'd be wandering back out to the waiting room, waving, like lasso swirling a stethoscope over your head, like, who did this? Who made me late?
Yeah, right. Which, that's so funny. Let's go with that. But also, I would never cause conflict like that because I'm too afraid of having to deal with people.
The idea of it's really funny because of that. You would never want to deal with the repercussions.
It's like, Judge Rhino, I'm here for my gynecologist appointment.
There's so much to unpack in that very statement. This is also another setup here because Carrie happens to have the flyers that Danny gave her, the fucked up, wrinkled flyers for his lawn care business.
That are magically in good shape, by the way.
They're in good shape here. Maybe she printed off some more. We don't know. And Dr. Crawford notices it and says, I'm actually looking to get some yard work done, but I only want to spend about $500. Carrie says, hey, Danny's got a knack for it, and he's getting back into it. Dr. Crawford takes a flyer and lets Carrie know she can grab an ice-blended coffee on the way out the door.
Yeah, that whole scene I felt extremely creepy. And I do understand because I don't think it's possible to be a gynecologist who is not creepy. Like, if you're going to ask someone, like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a doctor. What's your specialty? Pussy. There's no way. Like, there's no way that kind of profession is not creepy, and he does come across that way. I don't know if it was because of a lack of acting or the way they wrote him or whatever they're going for, but I didn't feel comfortable in any of the scenes he was in.
He kind of comes across like that coach from the last episode in that he may have tried to rub on broadnacks or something like that. He's a little
beautiful
bit...
black Jaguar.
Yeah, he's just a little bit
Which
off.
is what he calls the pussies.
Oh,
hey, you
God.
got a nice black Jaguar going on here.
After the appointment, we go back to the Heffernan kitchen. Carrie is very pleased with how her appointment went. She walks up to Doug, who's at the kitchen table, seated on his laptop. He's scouting new grills, and he's watching videos to prepare for buying the new one, the Charmaster 8000. He's on adventuresinmeat.com. Carrie walks up to him watching this video, and she actually doesn't even see the grill. However, thankfully, Kevin James clears all that up.
It's the Charmaster website. I'm taking a virtual tour of the 6-burner Platinum Edition.
Where's the grill?
We're in it. It's a steak eye view. Look at this. We're zooming into the drip tray and back up to the lava rocks. Drip tray, lava rocks. Feels sex head, don't it?
Gross. I don't want to hear Kevin James speak like that ever. Now, one thing I did want to point out, I decided to do a little bit of research here.
Okay.
Adventuresinmeat.com, not a real website.
Oh, shocking.
Oh.
However, it automatically redirects you to adventuresinsex.com.
Okay, which meat, sex, I get it.
Which then immediately has a database error, so nothing actually happens.
Damn it.
Disappointing.
I am wondering, too, I have to say, this Charmaster...
8,000.
I don't know about the model. Let's not get into that. I want to question whether or not this is actually the Charm Master, and it's an AI grill that talks to you while you cook and makes you feel better about yourself, so your cooking is better.
That'd be worth it.
It could be that we're not looking into this enough technology.
Gives you a little bit of a pep talk.
Wise.
It gives you advice. It's like, look, I already know you threw away the thing that tells you how long you're supposed to cook this. So
I already know you
here's
shouldn't
what
be
it
with your
is.
wife.
This little scene here, this Kevin James rant, if you will, this comedic tirade, this is, I think, Van, probably like a big part of what you dislike about Kevin James, right? He relies on kind of that repeating phrases and then saying a word a little bit weird. It's kind of the way Adam Sandler does. Like, and the idea of saying sexy in a strange way is supposed to be inherently funny. He makes a common Kevin James face at the end of it when he says the word sexy, a little gopher face, kind of like Cousin Danny does also. It's a little bit rough.
The jokes are often substanceless. They're cursory face value jokes. There's nothing deep or thoughtful about them. It's just like the word sex is funny, so I said sex.
Yeah, and
That's
you're
all it is.
supposed to think Kevin James's bombastic delivery sells the material, but the material is lazy, and his delivery, like, you know, for a lot of us, doesn't do anything. Carrie, you know, she tolerates this, him watching this whole grill video. She gets a call from Dr. Crawford at this point, and that's where Carrie kind of separates from the camera. Holly pops in the back door, and a little bit of background information for those unfamiliar with her character. She spends a lot of time on screen with Arthur, Jerry Stiller's character. She's
Is
a
she
dog
his
walker.
caretaker?
Yeah, a little bit of his caretaker, and she also has a job as a dog walker. Arthur goes with her a lot, things like that.
So is it strictly that he needed someone to help him, so
Yeah.
that's where she came in? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the origin of the character was. It just, she felt out of place.
Right, and this is the thing I noticed with this, and I know this is a common sitcom situation, which is, where would they be without pop-ins? People just constantly, hey, I'm here. I didn't tell you I was coming, but here I am. That's a sitcom thing that just happens like several times a day, where if it happened once to me, I'd be done forever. It'd be like, you
We're
are
not
never going to
friends.
talk again, and you are not going to come over here again. But in sitcoms, that just happens all the time.
No
These
one
people
locks their doors
No.
for some reason.
Even their back door.
and
in
if
King
they
of
don't,
Queens?
you're just like, oh, well, I'll just come in.
Yeah.
Just
Ding
why would you?
dong. Hi, I've arrived to drive the plot forward
And it will be funny.
at all times.
She's a dog walker?
Yeah.
That's her profession?
I
was
feel
one
like
of
I
them.
knew that. Yeah, I don't really like Holly very much. But
Yeah.
Do they have a dog?
No, that's unrelated to the Heffernans.
Oh, okay.
That's just something
no, she does that. Yeah, I guess she just cobbles together mini jobs or something.
Yeah, she must do
I'm not.
kind of
I
all
never
parts
really
work.
understood her. I don't know.
I did like the joke. She's here to drop off. This is the reason she's here to have a gynecology discussion later with Carrie. She's here
Which
to.
they just do.
She's here to drop off a replacement Slim Jim for Arthur because a dog stole his, and he was very insistent that she get him a new one, which I really, really enjoyed.
I wish we could have seen
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I wish we could have seen the back and forth between those two.
Yeah,
Jerry
it-
Stiller and the dog, that is.
Jerry Stiller and anyone, honestly.
Yeah.
It would have been totally great. At this point, Carrie comes back into frame. She just talked to Dr. Crawford, and he's really, really happy with the work that Danny did. This is good news for everybody. Holly needs a new gynecologist, too, so she's trying to glom
Everyone
on.
does.
Yeah, she's trying to glom on to Dr. Crawford, but Carrie doesn't trust her enough to hold her shit together and be on time, I guess. So she denies Holly that opportunity, which seems kind of shitty.
You can't have my pussy doctor.
Yeah, this isn't allowed at all. And then Danny gophers his way in another pop-in. And he's here to say, hey, thank you for believing in me, Carrie, and giving me this opportunity to work on Dr. Crawford's
Now, I have broken
law.
a few laws in my business dealings.
Do you really think... Okay, shows have to have at least a semblance of realism to them, I think, to have... they don't. But this show needs to. Anyway, does anyone really think this Danny guy did a good job with landscaping? One look at that motherfucker, and I know he's failed at everything he's ever done.
What do you
this
think
life.
he'd be good
I was going to
at?
say, what else has he gotten going? Maybe he was good at that.
I feel like he would have to have parents who pay for his way through everything, and even then he finds a way to squander and lose their money despite never actually having any money to begin with.
Well, as we
Yeah.
learn, whether he's good or not, he certainly does something unethical with his business.
He is skeevy, at the very least.
Or just stupid? I'm not really sure what we're
It's a
supposed
little
to
bit
think.
of both, to be honest. That buck-toothed piece of shit. Fuck, I hate him so much.
He really does look like a chipmunk, man.
Man, you really hate Kevin James and all his family,
whole
too.
family.
I do, yeah.
You're not stopping at Kevin James.
I'm going to call up his mom and yell at her.
Danny is so thankful he brings the Heffernans a gift. It's a peach tree, or as he said,
Apple.
an apple tree, a Prunus persica, which, as IMDb will tell you, is actually a peach tree.
Oh.
Oh, man, let's get our fruit right here.
Yeah.
Is that a deep joke that he didn't know what it was?
Surely not.
I have to think that their eyes were getting weary, their backs were getting tight, and they just rushed their decision
Now,
on what to call
would,
this
would
tree.
you guys rather eat a peach or an apple?
Apple.
I think
I don't
a
like
peach,
peaches.
probably.
I like both.
But I'm cool with both.
They're too chewy. I like the more rigid structure of an apple. Also, by the way, do you know
I like my teeth to break when I eat.
do you know what the worst possible present you could get someone is? An apple tree. If you're buying someone a tree,
Yeah.
That's
you need to
sweet.
talk to them first before you buy them.
It's an
I would love it
investment.
if someone I would love it if someone planted an apple tree in their backyard.
Yeah, and I get the sense that, like, Danny only knows how to operate in lawn-related materials.
Apparently, yeah. Do you know if this has ever come up in the past? Does he ever have business dealings where he's done this before, or is this just new?
Not with this. I feel like he constantly has some scheme.
Yeah.
This is the Kramer, he's got an idea, something to work on.
Yeah, and this is where our conflict comes in, because
there's a conflict.
Danny can't do the work for the $500 that Carrie told Dr. Crawford he'd do it for. In fact, he's got a bill, which he initially shows Carrie just to show off his new Garden of Whedon stationery, and the bill's for $958, almost double the price.
Woo.
Carrie freaks out. She's like, you can't do this. Like, Dr. Crawford's sensitive, and he's not going to pay this, and he might drop me as a client. And she pleads with Danny to please just make it the $500 they'd originally discussed at this point. We also get the tidbit that apparently the logo for Garden of Whedon involves Danny's nude body and a giant green thumb that looks like a penis.
I would like to have seen this logo so I could hate it even more. I also wrote in my notes here, I'd like to read this verbatim. I never thought I would crave Kevin James yelling and doing fat jokes, but this other guy is the worst person I've ever witnessed in my life. I hate him so much.
Is it just all the, like, bumbling around?
And look at that guy. Just look at him. When I was a kid, and you can attest to this, we used to say that I looked very punchable.
Punchable, yes.
This guy is the poster boy for punchable. I want to beat the hell out of him.
I'm telling you, there's something about the James genetics that you don't like.
Yeah, I want to throw him in a volcano.
And they do both have a little bit of that gopher appearance in their face.
So would you say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree?
I might say the peach doesn't fall
I
far
was
from
just
the tree.
ready.
The Prunus
Oh, man.
persica tree, if you will. We don't really get much of a solution at this point in time.
No,
it's just
not at all.
Danny and
We
Carrie.
don't ever
I
get a
was-
solution.
No.
I guess that's why we're watching these, right? Because we don't know the solutions. I was confused at this point. Because sometimes I don't pay that much attention to these kind of
I
shows.
wonder why you wouldn't pay attention to King of Queens.
I was confused as to whether or not Carrie was wrong or he was. Because I put in here, like, Carrie's acting manipulative as fuck. She's like, you will not charge him that. You will take essentially half the rate you charged him. I wasn't sure if initially, I know later on he charges like triple later on. We'll talk about that. But I wasn't sure, is she telling him, hey, no, you can't do that? And he's saying, but I went over. It happens sometimes in my business.
I thought that at first, too.
I thought it was her being an asshole at first.
Yeah, and then later on, when he admits to trying to price gouge the doctor, he says, well, charging him double worked.
Right.
So I do get the sense he was... nobody has honest, good intentions in this show full of horrible people.
Right, and the initial stages, though, Carrie did seem to not really believe him when he said, yeah, I worked more. That's what happens when you go over. She was like, no, you're not going to... You don't get your money.
You will do this for $500.
Maybe she just knows he's a bad person. In which case, why did she pass out his flyers in the first place?
Carrie's reaction to Gary Valentine is the same as Van's.
Utter disgust.
She just
contempt.
immediately hates him.
She never
when
should have
sees
enabled him in the first place then. She was like, I'll pass out your flyers to my gynecologist.
Look, he did a great job with my backyard, but aside from that, can't stand him.
So we cut to the Heffernan bedroom where Carrie's still looking for a solution, and she has a potential solution to this price gap. Doug is lying in bed watching a black and white Western.
15 feet from the television, like people love to watch their movies.
It was a different time.
It was.
CRTs.
Tiny CRT television. He's watching some free-to-post Western.
I love how oblivious he is here, and I guess people are like this, but it's clear, and I know this is the comedy of the scene. She comes in there, she's got something to talk about. He has no idea for 2 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. She's got something she wants to say, and he's like, oh, no, I'm just busy watching this Western. He's so clueless, and I guess that's why you love him. Because he just doesn't know.
He's a lovable giant oaf.
And he's so stupid that he doesn't know what his own wife wants to talk about, which in this case is...
Well, he's watching this Western and makes a big joke about the fragility of saloon furniture. Carrie then yucks it up and is like, man, you never know what you'll say. I'm so glad I'm with you. You're hilarious.
She does exactly what you should do to Kevin James, because I guarantee he'd eat that shit up in real life.
Butter him up. And this is, of course, very out of character for Carrie. But that's the big reveal. She asks Doug if they can pay the difference on the lawn service, which is over $400. That's
fucked up.
The last money they have laying around. It also means that Doug won't get the grill.
I don't think her pussy is worth $400.
And if Doug doesn't get that grill, what will happen? What will they do with their meats? Doug,
Microwave them.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Doug does a little bit where he pretends he's going to give her the money and then says, you'll get nothing. And then the two continue to argue about the whole thing. Doug just doesn't understand why the gynecologist is such a big deal.
I don't get it either.
Carrie says, look, I'll light the grill. We'll just use the old one for now, but I need to keep this gynecologist. Doug says that is not happening. This scene also has some of those stupid jokes. Kevin James at one point just has some line when Carrie says, everybody will be happy this way, and Kevin James says, except for Chubby, referring to himself. Another just obvious fat joke as he's been beached watching that old Western this whole time.
Beached. That's the perfect description.
Yeah. So we don't, again, have a solution yet. We cut to a setting we have yet to see in our episodes we're covering. That's the IPS locker room, a common setting in King of Queens, actually.
Right.
I feel like I have seen that before in the brief episodes I've watched.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
must be
pretty common. Yeah, it's Deacon is kind of an asshole here. I thought, and
He's
I like
panicked.
Deacon normally.
Yeah, usually he's a little more reasonable. Here we see Doug and Deacon talking about this gynecologist issue, and Doug tells Deacon, hey, Carrie wants me to pay $400 extra so that Dr. Crawford thinks this lawn work was done for $500. And Deacon says, look, dude, you gotta pay it, because I'm worried there'll be a trickle-down effect. Carrie will get booted from the gynecologist, then Kelly will, and we're on thin ice. We just got back together. I can't have her losing her gynecologist.
Death knell.
The
for every
linchpin of our
relationship.
marriage.
Yeah.
That's how they all end, you know. It's lack of gynecologist, apparently. They get into it a little bit, and it becomes a little bit of a fight, and Doug's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to make me? And Deacon just playfully somewhat punches him in the boob, and Kevin James is like, ow, and does his big, look, oh, that really hurt act, and says, fine.
Who would have thought a tough-as-nails former football player would be this much of a sissy?
Yeah, and he says, I guess I'll do this. I'll pay the difference. I just don't know what women see in him. Deacon does actually, though, have an idea what women see in him. Let's check that out, Van.
What is it with this doctor? What do they love so much about him?
I don't know. He's soothing. He puts him at ease. He's like the vagina whisperer.
I can't help but notice you guys didn't laugh at that joke like the crowd did there.
All I did was laugh at the noises that happened at the end. That was more funny to me
It's
than
probably
joke.
Billy Vera in the bleachers or whatever. They're doing a boop bop boop bop boop. Wah. I'm glad you got that little stinger
I had to leave it,
involved
yeah.
in the clip after the most uproarious studio audience reaction of the episode, because presumably Deacon said the word vagina.
I imagine that was funny for that audience. They must have thought, oh my god, he went there.
Did either of you know if this was filmed in front of a studio
Yes,
audience?
every
Okay.
single episode of it was.
I didn't know if they
and
piped
it
that
sounded
in or
it sounded like a legitimate response, and I'm sure at that time period it was.
I'm sure the applause meter was going off that the studio audience was looking at. I don't know, though. They might have just thought this was hilarious.
Whoever is like, hey, I've got to go to a King of Queens taping this week. Oh man, it's going to be great.
It's going to be so fucking hilarious. We're back in the old Heffernan backyard.
Oh, good. This scene is just
This
so much
is
fun.
I had a note here. I have to mention. I know it was necessary for the episode, but how many fucking meals did these people cook on a grill?
Apparently,
are
that's the only
is
method
that
of
like
delivery.
Every single meal, they're out there like, oh, it's breakfast. Let's go put the eggs on the grill.
Fire up the
You know,
grill.
like they don't ever not use the grill, even though it's well known
Yeah.
this grill could blow up in their face. It's like, well, we have a giant steak that we've got to put on there. Sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. It's like, I get poor Doug. He wants a new grill. That girl's gonna kill him. But why do you keep using it? Is the general concept that I had here is, why do you insist on using this grill so much?
Let's make some pancakes and pour the batter onto the grates of this grill. I mean, it is like every meal. This backyard scene is like a showcase for Kevin James' physical comedy.
4 minutes of this.
Yeah, it goes on a while of Doug talking to the grill, assuring it, hey man, I'm not trying to light you, then chucking, say, how about them Knicks?
Oh,
Lights
and then
the
running
match,
away, yeah.
throws it in, runs away, and then slowly waddles up to it. Then it explodes. He yells, I'll see you in hell, when it won't light. It's what you think. It's just a series of pratfalls. Carrie comes outside to tell Doug, hey, the plan worked out with Danny and Crawford. Crawford doesn't know that it costs more than $500. Danny doesn't know that Crawford didn't pay the $900. And next year, I'm going to buy you an even better grill. The grill belatedly lights as Carrie enters the kitchen. Kevin James goes up in flames and dies.
Van wishes.
No, that's Van's dream tonight he's going to have after recording these episodes.
I hope so.
Inside, Carrie hits play on the answering machine, and there's a message from Danny saying, listen, who's the moron now? Dr. Crawford paid that $900, no problem, and he's even hired me to do more work. He thought I did such a good job.
We know who the moron is still. Don't worry, Doug.
Yeah.
Or what's this one's name?
Doug.
Danny.
Also Doug.
Yeah,
They're
also
all,
Doug.
Every insufferable human being on the show is named Doug. The whole cast.
This is a big problem that Dr. Crawford wants more work done, because he's going to want it done at the cheaper rate. And that's going to create this same problem all over again. Carrie realizes that right away and is cursing Danny just as Van is. And she heads over to Danny, who lives with Spence, heads over to their apartment to get this all sorted out.
I'm glad you said that because I had a question, which was, does Patton Oswalt have to live with this fucking motherfucker, piece of shit, ass, fuck, bitch, shit, hobgoblin?
Yes, is the answer.
Okay.
They are at odds roommates, and that comes up. They're supposed to be a couple of losers who have to live with roommates, which if you live in New York, you probably live with roommates.
I think everyone does.
I mean, it's not cheap. So we see Danny and Spence's plant-filled apartment. There are just plants and trees.
Huge apartment, too.
Yeah, it's very spacious. They're just everywhere. Carrie immediately hits Danny and is like, you're going to call Dr. Crawford.
Yeah.
You're going to get out of doing this work. I don't care what you have to do. He thought that the previous job was done for $500. The same problem's going to occur again. So this is the big reveal. Everybody's on the same page at this point. And Danny, this is what Spencer and I were talking about earlier. Danny says, well, I double charged him and he paid it. Well, I thought I could get away with triple charging him.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of the plants on loan. It appears that he's gone into debt doing this whole Garden of Whedon thing. Doug was right the whole time. Danny's a dipshit.
Yeah, I really am not sure what Danny was thinking. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a good head for business.
No, or anything. And Danny kind of does say that at this point. He's like, oh man, I think I fucked up.
I shouldn't have been illegal in my dealings.
There's also the best line in both of these shows here, which is when Patton Oswalt comes out in
This is the best part.
shower cap.
Yeah,
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
because there's fish in the bathtub.
And Carrie's being mean to him, like, do you really wear that, blah, blah, blah. And at some point, Patton stops and goes, what did I do to you?
Yeah, it's
and
a
the way he
really
read it is so
beleaguered
good.
line reading.
Which is again another great background piece of that character in general. Like he's just always so confused as to why
they're
does
mean.
everyone do this to me?
Yeah, and why?
And of course he does that so well.
Yeah, and why are Doug and Carrie angry narcissists? I mean, it's got to be tough being friends with them. In this very moment, Patton Oswalt walks in on Carrie screaming at Danny like, do whatever you have to do to get out of this. It really doesn't matter. None of that really comes to fruition, though, is the problem at this point, because Danny doesn't want to do the job for less money, and he can't really take a loss. He's bought a bunch of plants in advance with all this overcharging he's done of Dr. Judge Reinhold. Carrie can't really make Danny do anything here. Danny's wearing also another one of those numbered jersey shirts, so he's played sports. He's really tough at this point.
More Boob Tube Boys and more King of Queens coming up after this.
We cut back to the Heffernan kitchen where the couples are hanging out again. That's Doug and Carrie, Deacon and Kelly, and they've just been out for a night of karaoke where presumably Doug serenaded Deacon with Betty Davis eyes.
Those are wonderful exposition lines right there. It's like that was a great time at karaoke. What was that song you sang? Like where they open they all just come in. Obviously they were just 1 centimeter away from the set that they walked into in real life, and they come in here and they walk in the door like, oh, that was a great time we just had, right guys? Let's talk about it.
What a great time on the town. Let us talk about what we did and the specifics of it.
I have to tell you, the worst possible hell that could ever exist is the one where Kevin James does karaoke.
Man, I would like to see that.
He's
personally.
on the stage. You know, he's screaming into the microphone, running everywhere, falling over, pretending to
He's
trip.
probably done a Booker T spinneroonie.
Or at least attempted to, and done the fat guy version. If he didn't write a segue up there,
he would have had to fall off the stage and go, ah, as he's falling, which is every Kevin James scene. Basically, anyway. So the couples are hanging out. They've just had the best time they've ever fucking had in their whole life doing karaoke. And there's an answering machine from Dr. Crawford. It says that Danny dug up his backyard, basically doing part of the job, but then disappeared. And the doctor, he doesn't know what's going on. But Dr. Crawford's out of town for the weekend. He says, Carrie, let me know what Danny's doing with my yard if you hear from him at any point.
He also said the line on there, because Danny cut the phone line.
Right, in his landscaping process.
The Judge Reinhold says something like, I'm on my cell phone, so if it sounds bad. This was already 2000s, right?
Well, it's 2003, so it makes sense.
Yeah, there were weird things happening with cell phones back then.
Yeah, 2003 is when we're on
I still
the
had
verge
an antenna on my cell phone in 2003. I'd pull it up. I'd be like, I'm going to make sure my reception's good.
Chris Barboa, a friend of ours, and I'm only saying this because you guys will find it interesting, convinced me to get a cell phone at the time because he wanted me to try out this trendy new thing, text messaging.
I don't think I started that till 2005 or 6.
I probably
and
didn't
it was
either.
awful. You had to do the tap method.
TTY or whatever, yeah.
God, I hated that.
T9 predictive text.
It took about 5 minutes to send a one-sentence message.
Imagine if you had to use the letter F, you had to hit 3 or 4 times.
And what if
I
you
could
made a
probably
mistake?
still do it. My skills are still there. I could if we had to go back to that time period.
You'd be all right.
I could do it.
If T9 predictive text ever comes back in vogue, or if there's ever a big competition, we'll send Spencer in. He will be our representative for Boob Tube Boys.
You'll be the power team of T9 texting.
Yeah, I could.
He'll rip the phone in half.
Yeah, of course.
Easy. Yeah, no problem at all.
I have seen him dunk a phone in a full glass of water.
Oh, I just put it in there.
You just dropped it right in.
Well, it deserved it. For being honest.
Kelly learns of Carrie's whole scheme here, which is Dr. Crawford's being underpaid, and Doug and Carrie made up the difference. She's kind of mad. What is this? This is insane. We're going to lose our gynecologist.
Ugh. No doctor's worth this.
No. We cut to a scene of Danny crossing the Delaware border as he has gotten the fuck out of town.
I'm with this piece of shit, though. I would abandon Kevin James at the first opportunity to go to Delaware if I could, even though Delaware isn't real, as we've established.
And it probably makes you feel better, Van, that Danny's in Delaware, far away from you.
That's true. Into the mysterious, fake realm of Delaware.
Delaware's real? And I have crossed its state line before, just as Danny has. Van's probably not pleased with that statement, but it is true. At this point, the couples know there's only one possible solution, which is they have to fix Danny's handiwork in the yard, and none of them really know anything about that.
This is a logical conclusion to come to,
Right,
right?
of course. And again, this is all just to keep your gynecologist, which is relatable in some way, right?
I guess. They are in Dr. Crawford's backyard after dark on the weekend, very loudly trying to follow blueprints that Danny had made for his plans, which involved a koi pond at one point, apparently.
And again, how good are Danny's blueprints that he drew up? It's probably done in crayon or written with just a turkey leg. It's just grease smashed into the paper.
And this whole plan, of all of Carrie's plans, in this episode, this one is the worst. It just goes disastrously. Sprinklers go off, and she tries to make them keep working. They're all, again, really loud after dark. I don't know if they could get away with that. It's just a total disaster. They don't know what they're doing. Deacon and Doug start spying.
I love that part. I guess they get some sort of man-on-man jealousy. Let's take a look at see what this pussy doctor's got inside his house.
Yeah.
They peer in his windows, and they want to see what's inside there, which is not normal.
Well, we get a callback to that tree from earlier.
We do, although the episode doesn't know that, since it called the tree an apple tree. But Doug and Deacon look inside. Doug sees something inside and is horrified and says that the doctor's got vaginas in jars.
Yeah, okay, I see it now. It's all coming to fruition for me.
But the other guy says...
And Deacon says, those are peaches.
What? Who has
why does
jars
he have
of peaches?
You know.
Canned peaches, okay, but jars of peaches that are visible at any given moment through your front window. I don't know. It seems real weird to me.
Yeah, I don't know what you'd be doing with these jarred whole peaches
It could
that
be
apparently have a
that-
split in them.
It could be that Doug was right. They were actually just vaginas.
A better joke would be like, oh my god, it's vaginas in jars, and the deacon's like, those are just shrunken heads.
Yeah.
That's what I would have gone with
Sure.
if I was writing for King of Queens.
Wish you didn't.
You
Doug-
probably could have.
I mean,
No, too highbrow.
lax tendencies here for the show. Doug's also just fucking around with everything in the lawn and notices that, yeah, Dr. Crawford does have a Charmaster 8000. The very girl he wanted, and the worst part of all, it sears a Patriots logo into the meat. Ugh. As a Jets fan, Doug just can't abide that at all, of all things. So this looks terrible, but again, we don't get any finality. We just cut straight back to Dr. Crawford's office, and who's in the stirrups?
Holly.
It's Holly. She actually got her first appointment quickly with Dr. Crawford, and she loved it. It went just as smooth for her as with everybody else. And Dr. Crawford's exposition allows us to know that that's because, would you believe it? I actually had to get rid of several patients this week. In fact, I came home from vacation. I found 2 of them soaking wet fighting in a hole in my backyard.
Yeah, I often talk about my patients directly with my other patients.
Yeah.
There's not any kind of law against that at all.
I definitely violate HIPAA laws at every turn. This is why I have such high Yelp scores. So that's our cue that Carrie and Kelly have been ditched by Dr. Crawford. And we get the full confirmation in our final shot, where in the Heffernan bedroom, Doug and Carrie are fast asleep, not physically touching one another. That would be far too hot for Carrie, I would imagine.
Oh, man.
She'd be smothered to death just as she is in the opening
I
credits
thought you
on
meant
that
hot,
field.
like that would be sexy.
Yeah, especially if you get some shirtless Kevin James.
Like in
Oh,
Here
yeah.
Comes the Boom.
Is he shirtless in that?
I presume.
I
He's
bet
a
he's
fighter.
Is he just shredded?
I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I figured. Well, the phone line rings in the middle of the night, and Carrie answers. And it's Dr. Ambrose, a rival gynecology mentioned by Holly earlier as being a creep.
Rival. Like they're all just out to get each other.
Like
Yeah.
gangs of gynecologists. Yeah.
Well, this episode presents it as the biggest industry.
It does, yeah. It really does.
Carrie asks Dr. Ambrose what's up, and he just sighs deeply. And
This
that's
is
the end of the episode.
Presumably like 3 a.m. or whatever, yeah. Yeah, that was a strange joke. I don't understand this gynecology humor. I don't get it. I was so baffled by that. I would even go so far as to say I was blown away.
Do you think that the secret garden in the title refers to the garden
No.
that Danny was making, or vaginas?
No! I hate when you guys try to look deep into these extra meanings here. The writers didn't know that. They didn't think about that at all. They're bad.
I bet they were like, what's a phrase that's got garden in it? And went with the first one.
Vagina.
Olive garden. When you hear your family.
Ew.
So that wraps up this episode and both of our episodes on King of Queens. I think it's a good time to, as we often do a little bit of a recap. Spencer, let's start with you. What do you
Okay.
think of King of Queens? I don't know if you have like a 1 to 10 score. We've done that a few times. What are your opinions of the series based on what you've seen?
This is gonna be rough because Van's gonna never talk to me again. I actually don't.
That's the best show we've ever watched.
I would never say that. We watched Columbo. I don't think it's worse than Mad About You. When I said Mad About You was average, I think this is average, and there are elements of it that are even a little bit above that because I know you hate Paul Blart, but Kevin James is not. This would be hard for him, but you'd have to put him in the right spot. And I don't think as a comedian he's all bad. I don't think that. I think, yes, if you do all the fat jokes, sure. But I don't think he's completely worthless as a comedian. So I didn't hate the show. I recognize the obvious. This has been done so many times over the years. The fat guy, hot girl thing. I get that. It's very overdone in that sense. But there were enough other elements. We didn't see him as much. But just the fact that Jerry Stiller and Patton Oswalt were in this, it elevates it to me. I would even say it's a slightly above average sitcom because I don't like sitcoms anyway. So if I'm going to watch one, I don't hate this one as much as a lot of them.
I am
This is-
dumbfounded.
This
I
is
know,
awesome.
I
This
know.
is our first divisive
That's fine.
episode, I think.
I was ready for that, so I'm
let's-
just saying. It's not. There could be a lot worse.
Let's send it over to Van to see if he thinks there can be worse.
I don't think he's ready to speak yet.
Okay, so Jeff Foxworthy in the 90s came up with you might be a redneck if.
Yeah.
And he
Took
had
the
some
world
good
by
points.
storm. It was clever. It was new. It came out. That doesn't mean he's a funny comedian. That just means he found success by exploiting something that everyone can relate to, which, okay, or not everyone, but a lot of people can relate to. I don't think Kevin James having 15 to 20% of his bits be funny redeems him at all. I think he's insufferable. I don't like that he's as successful as he is, because it's like if you took Chris Farley, who also probably was a bit overrated, but you took Chris Farley and took away all of the charisma that he might have. That's Kevin James. It's just fat, loud, brash. I do not like physical humor more often than not.
Do you want to blame him more than the writing then, in that sense?
I do, because it's his show. If you attach your name to it, you're the producer, you're the star, you do whatever. I think it's on you. You have the onus of owning that up. If they said something terrible on the show, but his character didn't say it, and society was like, you really can't say that anymore, he would have to come to apologize for it. You couldn't have the producer of it or the director of this episode come out. You have to have Kevin James do it. He's the face of it all.
And body.
And a lot of body. I really do not, if you can't tell, really do not like the show.
Well, it wasn't clear.
I will never, ever, ever turn this show on if given the opportunity. Mad About You, you said that, so I can compare it to that. It at least felt like, I don't know, wholesome, or like they weren't reaching for the moon. They were just kind of doing what they thought was funny. This is Kevin James thinking he's putting out art. I fully believe that. I think he thinks he has put out the best show that's ever existed, and it's atrocious.
So maybe what you're thinking is that Mad About You is more self-aware, and King of Queens thought they were being edgy in a way that didn't connect with you.
In a lot of ways,
okay.
Yes. That's a fair statement, for sure. Obviously, we've noted on this show before that being popular, being the show that gets the ratings, doesn't mean it's a good show. Alf got great ratings.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to say that this was probably my least favorite of every show we've done. But looking at it realistically, visually it looks fine. There's some weird visual cues. The audio sounds good. I mean, it's produced. It's a sitcom. It has a bunch of money into it. Yeah. So I can't say it's a 1. But what did we say, Matt, about you? Was a 4? So that means
I think we agreed that was like a 5. I think we all said that was about an average sitcom.
That's fair. So I'd still stick with a 3. This is a 3 out of 10 to me.
So it's no better than Walker, Texas Ranger.
No,
and I know Walker, Texas Ranger is not a marriage comedy, so we can't get into the exact comparison.
I mean, it's totally a comedy. It just doesn't know it yet.
It's just a lot more fun. I don't find anything about this show fun.
Yeah,
nothing about this made me go, I'm having fun watching this. Whereas fair. Walker, I could make fun of the songs.
Right.
Or
it's all mockery, though. Yeah.
It's a mockery thing. Now, is that a fair thing to say towards King of Queens? I can't mock it. Maybe not. But I just find no redeeming value about it. That's fair. There you go. You've got our 2 perspectives. What do you think, Brian?
Well, this isn't that surprising, but I fall somewhere in the middle on my perspective of this. How I come down on King of Queens is this. I think it is totally the most... It's a run-of-the-mill late 90s, early 2000s sitcom. I can't really disparage it any more than I would any of its ilk. I think the jokes are lazy, but I think the jokes in Mad About You are lazy. I think that it's the same sort of thing we see in all these. And there are some... It's well acted at times. The recurring characters are often... We've talked about this ad nauseum, but Jerry Stiller and Patton Oswalt are in this show. Mm-hmm. Like, you have some really good bit players here, and Bryan Cranston makes multiple appearances, things like that. And then ultimately what it comes down to is, in one of these vehicles, do you like the star? And that's kind of what we've been talking about in reference to Kevin James and previously Paul Reiser. Do you like the star? And Kevin James is very frustrating to watch at times. And again, I think that's a lot my preference. I also don't really care for physical comedy.
Right.
And I think...
It seems like a lazy form of comedy.
Yeah,
and the problem.
I think that's one of those things...
But you don't prefer Paul Reiser's style of comedy either, for instance.
No, I don't think either
which is not comedy at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, this is, again, it's in that 4 or 5 range because it's kind of just there. Mm-hmm. It just kind of is. And what irritates me about it the most is solely a function of my comedic taste, I think, versus quality. So I would say somewhere in that same Mad About You stew range of just like, oh, this is whatever. I would never be like, I'm gonna make some popcorn, I can get a cold beer, and I'm gonna just do a King of Queens marathon. Do you think someone's ever done that?
Yeah.
On the
Oh, yeah.
Queensborough
Absolutely.
Bridge
Kevin
tonight?
James. I guarantee he watches himself. He's the kind of person who do that. So's Paul Reiser. But
Yeah, I think King of Queens has a very clear fan base, and like I said, I
do you think it still does?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're called the Queen's Guard.
I don't think I've heard anyone
no
talk
seriously,
about King of Queens in years.
the official Twitter is still active.
Wow.
I swear to God. I swear to God, it is still on.
I would have
Twitter.
thought their eyes had gotten weary by this point, but I guess
And
not.
when we get this up, I will tweet at them and I will tell them we just talked about your show.
Well, since you mentioned Twitter, now seems like as good a time as any as we've cleared up this second episode of King of Queens. This podcast is on Twitter now, at Boob Tube Boys. I'm on there at Loud Guitar Brian. Van, what are you?
At Manly Van Lee. Rhymes.
What are you?
I am at the number 3 French_hen.
Hell
Rhymes.
yeah. You can also, if you like what we do, for as little as $2 a month, you can access like a bonus episode every week on Patreon. If you sign up at patreon.com/Bootu Inc., we are churning out a bunch of stuff where we talk about TV, food, drink, really, toys, whatever we deign necessary. So if you like listening to us talk for whatever the reason, you can do more of that on Patreon.
I would also like for everyone to tell us why they do like to listen to us talk. I want the answer to that.
And we read a few iTunes reviews last episode. Please, if you guys are listening to this, give us 5 stars and give us a review on iTunes. That is hugely helpful and important. And that we would just greatly appreciate it. We'll read your review here on this podcast.
Can you give us 6 stars, please? 5's not enough.
We would take it. We would totally take it. We want as many stars as Rob Van Dam puts in his frog splash.
That's a big one.
So since we've completed a few more different TV series since we last played it, I think it's time for a game of Swap Out.
All right, let's play.
Swap out.
Swap Out is a game Spencer started a little bit ago where we postulate what would it be like if character A from this show was in another show we've covered instead. That's the general premise. We're swapping out characters from shows into different shows. So who wants to debut, Van?
I can improve King of Queens tenfold.
Oh, man, with who?
Joxer. Joxer is more likable than Kevin James every day of the week.
This is tough for me because Joxer was another one that got on my nerves a lot.
But I would take him over Kevin James any day of the week.
So he's just in there and he's like, man, my IPS route was terrible today. Joxer, the
He's got a
mighty
stupid
driving
hat on.
on Queens.
Yeah, that's interesting that you went that route. So you want to combine the drama elements of Xena and put it in King of Queens a little bit?
Why not?
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, Joxer's not dramatic in any scope of the word.
No, not in
He's
every
the
line reading.
Yeah, he's the comedic element, so he'd fit in right in there.
Do you think Lucy Lawless could handle the IPS delivery route?
Oh, yeah, I think she could.
So Xena could be the head IPS person.
I think that it would be a different show, certainly with Xena at the helm.
Would she need the truck? She could just deliver them herself.
She could just run. But no, if let's say she's in the starring role, she's in the Kevin James role, it may not be as much of a comedy style thing, but I think she could put together a show that would be watchable.
Well, that's interesting though, because he talked about the lesbian community loving Xena. So if she were a couple with Leah Remini,
that'd be hot.
I'd watch it.
Yeah. So you guys think that would work? Like, is a comedy
Better
or
than King of Queens? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What if, though, let me posit this.
Okay, if you have a thought.
What if Xena takes Leah Remini's role and then, she wouldn't take she would just murder Doug the first episode?
She'd beat the shit out of him. It'd be great.
Yeah.
She wouldn't tolerate his shit one
And they'd have
bit.
to bring in someone different.
Hercules.
Speaking of
Kevin
Hercules,
Sorbo.
I have an idea for Hercules.
Oh, okay.
Let's get Penhall in there as Hercules. He's big enough. He's wide enough. I feel like he's strong. He can take a punch.
Do you think he could beat up those centaurs?
I think he would be a little more hot-headed about the whole thing, but they would respect him quicker.
Sure. He would do really well at infiltrating the centaurs. He
He's
might
not
pretend
good
to
with
be one.
rules.
No.
Is the thing.
He's got his shark tooth earring the whole time.
Which I think Hercules could have used more.
Continuing the 21 Jump Street theme here, what if we put Johnny Depp in King of Queens as the Kevin James role? How would that go?
Well, that would.
You would lose your fat humor. What do you do then? What's the humor?
No, you keep it in. You have a thin Johnny Depp still being like, I'm just a working class schlub. I wish I wasn't so fat.
It's me, chubby.
You know me. I'm entering a wing eating competition. I'm 145 pounds.
That may be the best thing I've ever heard in my life. I wish that had been King of Queens now.
Oh, man, my route was real tough today. Ain't that right, Deacon?
Johnny Depp just...
Can't wait to plop down in my brown onesie in front of my big screen.
Leah Remini picks him up and carries him around because he's just a skeleton at this point.
My big block in the big game. It's Johnny Depp, the smallest person.
Johnny Depp playing football. Yeah, this whole thing. Wow, I did not think that would be that funny, but I am crying now.
Okay, Jerry Stiller, except he's out there beating up all the gay people.
He's on the evil military hit squad.
But then the gays militarize and they have their whistles and they're going to come after him because they know this keeps happening. They get there and they realize it's just Jerry Stiller beating on someone.
Also, him just going undercover at the high school. Jerry Stiller.
And
just
it was
being...
mustache.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is the possibilities with Swap Out are honestly fairly endless.
We didn't even go as deep as we could, so...
No.
Let's
For instance, we could put Danny in as Sergeant Major Jackson from the 21 Jump Street episode, since that character was also insufferable.
Would that make it worse or better? I
don't know.
I don't know. Because it would ease up on the convictions. I don't think he could play the role where we would go, no, he really does believe this. I think we would eventually be like, he's just being a dipshit. So I don't know if that makes him worse or better. He would still be insufferable. It would just be a different type of insufferable.
Yeah, he wouldn't be so much like stick up your ass insufferable. That it's like two different kinds.
The only thing I wanted to bring up is there's only one note I didn't touch on my notes.
Touch it. Touch that note.
King of Queens.
Touch that note.
Note.
Touch it.
Really summarizes everything in that it just says, please stop yelling, Kevin James.
He loves to do that like faux yell. You have to think he learned that from Adam Sandler.
I don't have any eyebrows anymore. He
Yeah.
clearly has eyebrows.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
It's like that whole like production team loves to do that. Rob Schneider, Kevin James, Adam Sandler, Laurence Olivier, that whole group.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, without further ado, that kind of wraps up King of Queens. Let's shoot this thing over like Leah Remini shoots mustard over to Kevin James from me to Van as he takes the baton to tell us what we'll be covering for our next two episodes.
Well, I had a tall order in front of us because
You are a tall order.
not only am I following King of Queens and everything that it embodies, it's also just shortly removed from the 21 Jump Street.
Right.
Street
This is
experience.
one of those things where you have to talk about how you're not, when you have sex with somebody, you're not just having sex with that person, you're having sex with everyone they had sex with. This is just like that.
You're
Exactly
picking a
like
show
it.
that will have had sex with every show we've had sex
See?
with.
Exactly. So I had to really take that into account when I thought of, the show that I want to do. God damn it, my leg is fucking killing me.
It's from all this Kevin James stuff.
Actually, Brian, behind that subwoofer,
Oh,
bottom to your left.
I thought
Can
you
hand me
had
that?
I thought you had a thing to play. I thought it was like, actually,
What is that?
It's a giant bottle labeled Vicodin.
oh,
And my leg hurts.
Yeah.
Who has a leg that really hurts and is addicted to Vicodin?
Oh,
Who could it
shit.
be?
I figured it out.
Dr. Gregory House, of
Oh,
course.
my God.
So it's funny
Wow,
you
this
mentioned
was
the
a setup.
medical thing.
Yeah, this was very, very set up.
House is addicted
My
to
leg's fine,
Vicodin?
by the way.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess we're talking about House, or is that just the thing you wanted to...
So,
No, we're doing House, yeah.
House, I have not seen a full episode of
I've
House.
not seen a single second of House.
I've seen seconds of it where it appears to me, and this is my preliminary opinion, that House is a run-of-the-mill curmudgeon who just complains about everything and then magically solves problems each episode.
Well, he's sexy and he knows the answers, even though you don't think he would because he's such an asshole.
Hugh Laurie, two
But he's
first
smart.
names.
My whole life now, since House came out, people have been coming up to me like, have you seen House? You would really like House.
Yeah.
The guy's a total asshole. I'm not joking. People have done that to me. So eventually, years back, I did try watching House thanks to an ex-girlfriend and her ex-husband. It was a little weird. But anyway, so I've watched all but the final season of House. And
Oh, wow.
It's a guilty pleasure for mine. It's not good per se.
Well,
it's very much a Sherlock Holmes kind of mystery of the week kind of thing.
It's not really funny, is it? Like,
There's
isn't it
humor.
supposed to be? It's a
It's
drama
a drama.
first and
Sarcasm,
foremost.
humor.
Yeah.
It's a drama. For
So
sure.
does this would this qualify as the Apple Podcast reviewer
Yes.
who said, I
Medical
want a
drama.
hospital procedural?
Mm-hmm.
A good.
Wow,
Good
this
deal.
worked out really
Good
well.
deal, GS for life. Was that the one? If not, cut that out.
Yeah, last episode, I had notes in front of me where I was reading iTunes reviews, and one of the reviewers asked if we could cover a medical procedural. So House is on the way next.
Now,
that worked out well.
Basically, the whole premise of the show is there's a diagnostics department at Princeton Hospital, I believe it's called.
Like at the college, at the university?
Yeah, right there. No, it's a fake hospital. It's just a big hospital. And
Is
House,
it as fake as Metropolis from 21 Jump Street?
I don't even remember it. So if that tells you
That's
anything
the
about
name of the city they allegedly, in Evergreen State.
All I know is their address is 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
it was a church, right? No, anyway. House heads this diagnostics department, and so they take cases when they come in of things that other doctors can't solve. He has a team of doctors, including in the first couple of seasons, Omar Epps is one of the
wow.
Oh,
guys.
yeah, okay.
The Wire? Was he on The Wire?
No,
don't think
but
so.
he
I'm
did
thinking of some very heavy dramatic shows
he did
like that.
quite a few things.
I
yeah.
like Omar Epps.
Yeah.
Some Australian guy, I don't know if he is, his character's Australian, named Dr. Chase, who is insufferable.
Paul Hogan, maybe?
And then I will make some of those jokes. And then Dr. Cameron, who's she was the lead in that Once Upon a Time show, which
yeah.
I never watched. Anyway, she's on that. A few years later, actually, I think it was after season 3, his team abandons him. Houses does. So they actually reinvigorated the series by having him take over a class of people and slowly whittle them away to his new assistants, who then become a guy named Dr. Taub, who's this little bald guy, and more importantly, Olivia Wilde gets added to the cast as well as 13. We're going to do 2 episodes. The first one is from season 1. It's widely regarded as one of the best House stories, and it's actually the origin story for his limp. Season 1, episode 21, 3 stories, and I'll read you the descriptions. House's ex, Stacy Warner, asks him to treat her husband. House takes over a diagnostics class for a day and presents the class with 3 case studies of leg pain. As House tells his story and the class gradually fills up with listeners, the class learns a lot about how to be better doctors, and Chase, Foreman, who's Omar Epps, and Cameron, the other doctor, learn some important details of House's past. It's kind of, I actually genuinely enjoy this episode. It's kind of fun.
Revelatory.
The next one, I rewatched that one, by the way. I've seen it. This next one I haven't rewatched, but I vaguely remember it. It's the season 5, episode 9, Last Resort. A person takes House, 13, and others as hostages.
Oh, no.
Shit.
He's seen several doctors, but none have found what ails him. As they work towards finding a solution, 13 makes decisions, which leads to her to think about her own condition. She has Huntington's because everyone has something wrong with the show. It's an interesting show. It's, like I said, a guilty pleasure of mine. I think it's a lot of fun, and we'll have some fun discussing it.
That's right, we will.
You know, looking at Hugh Laurie's
That's exciting.
handsome face.
Yeah.
Yeah, his British face.
And he does the fake American accent, which has a
R, a
list.
lot of R's,
Now,
too.
my dad has a theory that British or any European actors can do American accents fine, but American actors cannot do the other way around.
I disagree.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair.
I think
that's
they're
just
all
his thought
bad.
process. Yeah.
It depends on the person, but yes.
Yeah. Yes, I think it depends. Yeah, if the actor's good, their odds go up, I think.
Kevin James doing a British accent.
Oh, that wouldn't work.
Probably.
Not
Which
good.
that actually supports my dad's side. What what American actor have you heard that's like, man, I never would have thought he was American in a role he does?
I don't know, because the other thing is, like, I always know the actor. Like, for instance,
Well,
if an
yeah.
actor is doing... I might be totally wrong. I feel like it's more common now to have a British actor do an American accent than vice versa.
Well, I think that might come into play in the sense that this is a whole side topic here, that the rest of the world can speak more than one language. Like, we only know
probably
the one.
Probably not England, though.
No, I mean, Kate Winslet, she does a lot of accents.
But one language.
Yeah. The point is, though, like, I don't really think that I've heard an American do a really good British accent, but I have heard the opposite a lot.
Nailed it.
That was really good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I see no better way than to end our final King of Queens episode
Thank
the same
God.
way that we ended our first. Van, I'm gonna need one more word from you on what you think of Kevin James.
Burning. As in what I want to happen in hell for eternity.
All my life I will be driving home